We used to operate about 25–30% margins in 2019, and now it's literally like 3% margins.
Live Nation's market dominance also means you don't have any choice but to pay their fees.
The venues, the managers, the ticketing company, the record label, the agents. I mean, at the bottom of the feeding frenzy is the actual creator of the music. Hey fam, welcome back. I'm Top Music Attorney. I'm giving you a lawyer's reaction today of what Ticketmaster doesn't want you to know. Concerts were cheap for decades. Now, I have covered the Ticketmaster Live Nation monopoly on this channel, but for those of you who are in the music business, that tour, that are part of tours, this video does a really nice job kind of explaining what the issue is and why small venues are at risk of going extinct. So let's jump into it.
When you're a true mom and pop indie small venue, you're like one person and you're doing like 6 jobs. You guys here with the water department? You guys need drink tickets? You want me to do it? Here's a list for a backup. I could be up on the roof later working on the air conditioning for all as we know. Let's do our little security meeting then. How you doing? You all right? Are you sweating? How the heck did that happen? If you haven't grabbed the plunger, then you're not an indie venue owner.
This is Tom. He owns a small rock club in Tampa, Florida that fits about 400 people.
Come on in.
Venue owners like Tom are the secret artists responsible for orchestrating all of your favorite concert moments.
Very soon, about 400 people will make their way in here for this concert. We're almost there.
And Tom is getting squeezed.
We used to operate about 25–30% margins in 2019, and now it's literally like 3% margins.
And the same people that are squeezing Tom are the ones gouging you for concert tickets priced at thousands of dollars. So if you can't afford to see your favorite artists, and the people putting on the shows aren't making any profits, who is making money? A giant corporate monopoly, of course, the two-headed beast of Live Nation and Ticketmaster. We're gonna dig into just how they not only ruin the concert-going experience, but set the template for making everything in the American economy, from food to airline travel and healthcare, shittier and more expensive for all of us.
As someone who spent a part of my music career doing the dive bar circuit with my rock band, you don't expect to make money. Half of the time you're buying on to play shows. You're lucky if you get 100 of your friends to come out. Sometimes you have to just literally buy tickets because the venue makes you buy the tickets, and everyone's just trying to make money. Everyone is trying to be seen, and the live show circuit is almost non-existent. And I think this video explains why, or one of the reasons why.
I can go through a day where 100 people say to me, we love you, we gotta figure out how to keep you here. And how can you not be making money? Every time I turn around, you're having a sold out concert. I'm like, listen, here's the thing. The big dogs are literally just gonna swallow me.
There's a hierarchy in live music, both in the sizes of the venues and the popularity of the artists. At the base are the small independent venues like Tom's. That's where traditionally most artists cut their teeth. Then in the middle tier, you have venues like the Pabst Theater in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, owned by Gary Witt. And at the very top, you have the big dogs Tom mentioned, the arenas, mostly owned by giant corporations like Live Nation, and the artists that can fill them, your Drakes, Taylor Swifts, and Beyoncés. Today, only that top tier that charges you thousands of dollars for tickets is able to sustain itself. But it didn't used to be this way. At one point, this top tier didn't even exist. The venues used to be a lot smaller, even for the biggest artists in the world. And the tickets were cheaper too. It's 1956. Teenagers in Miami are lining up outside the Olympus Theater all day to see Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll. It's the hottest ticket in town, and it costs $1.50. And before you say, well, that's just inflation, we did the math, and in today's economy, that would be like seeing the biggest pop star in the world for under $20. That's because back in the 50s and 60s, musicians kind of expected to lose money on live shows because the tour was just marketing for their album. That's where the real money was. Shows were short, usually less than 30 minutes, and they were small, often too small. Tens of thousands of people came out that weekend in Miami to see the king of rock and roll, but the theater only fit about 2,000, so he ended up playing 7 shows over the course of 3 days.
And then what these labels started to realize is that having ancillary ways of making money through the tour, such as having merch sales, having meet and greets, all of these become really important because it's expensive to put someone on tour, as I'm sure you guys know.
The Beatles figured out a way around that. In 1965, the boys from Liverpool changed live music forever with a record-breaking show at New York's Shea Stadium. 55,000 fans at a single show, screaming so loud the Beatles couldn't hear themselves play. The show grossed $300,000, or about $3 million today, and the band pocketed most of that. Stadium rock was officially born. And in the years to come, it would only become more successful, all thanks to basketball. In the 60s, the NBA and NHL were massively expanding their league sizes, which led to a new crop of huge indoor stadiums, most notably Madison Square Garden in New York and the Forum in LA, that could fit up to 20,000 people rain or shine, had better acoustics than the bigger outdoor stadiums, and were in need of more events to fill the nights when there were no games. Up to that point, a big artist might make up to $100K after playing a week's worth of shows in a mid-sized theater. But with these stadium and arena shows, they could make that much in just one night, without raising the ticket price.
So then the job of the label at this point, the job of the artist was to build the brand, right? Get more attention, get more awareness, and then just fill the venue. And so that's where there's a little bit of a disconnect in that a lot of artists and, creators are doing the smaller venues. And so it's harder to make money because there is less support. And so it always goes back to you have the entire internet at your disposal. And it's your job to let people know about what you are doing, to find the fans that love your music, that dig your brand. And then once you work to build those relationships, you get them out to come and see you at your show. A Music Attorney is your #1 legal resource for artists, producers, and record labels. Get contract templates, one-on-one legal advice, free master classes, and everything you need for your music business. Go to topmusicattorney.com.
Case in point, the most expensive ticket for that iconic Beatles show was $575, or $56 today. And it stayed like this for decades. We looked up more ticket stubs from the biggest acts of the 70s and 80s. And when we adjusted the prices for inflation, we were surprised to find that every single show we looked up between 1970 and 1989 cost almost exactly the same, around $45. A price that would have also gotten you into the Beatles' iconic Shea Stadium show back in '65. But in the 1990s, everything in live music changed because of 3 groups: Ticketmaster, Live Nation, and Pearl Jam. First, there's Ticketmaster. Today, concert ticketing is mostly digital, but before the 90s, tickets used to be sold through call centers, at stores, or at box offices.
Me and my loser friends, we gotta go get Aerosmith tickets. Top priority of the summer.
There were a number of different ticketing agencies, and they made their money by charging venues a fee for handling all of the technology and logistics of selling tickets. But Ticketmaster inverted that, and instead of charging venues, they started making money by charging fans, the infamous service fee. This incentivized venues to sign exclusive contracts with Ticketmaster over other companies. Ticketmaster also gobbled up the competition, acquiring 7 other ticketing agencies between 1985 and 1991, including their main rival, Ticketron.
On the unfair competition and monopolizing the market, so this is what these companies do. They get really big, they earn a lot of money, and then they have money to go buy up all their competitors. And so what happens is that eventually you get so big that the Securities and Exchange Commission comes in and says, you cannot do this anymore because you are preventing anyone else who is like you from entering into the market space because you just start buying them. And this happened as well for Facebook because Facebook bought Instagram, right? And then it went on and it bought WhatsApp. And so it was just slowly and has been slowly taking over the social media space. And so finally, Securities and Exchange Commission comes along and says, you cannot buy any more social media platforms.
So selling fast, buy yours at Navy Pier, Carson Perry Scott, and Ticketron.
So to sum up, that era of stable concert ticket prices we talked about ended at the same time that Ticketmaster became the only ticketing service in town. Because with their rivals out of the way, there was nothing to stop Ticketmaster from raising service fees, which they did.
That's right.
But an unlikely hero put them in the targets of government regulators.
People have been screaming about the Ticketmaster monopoly since the early 90s when Pearl Jam was testifying before Congress.
At the same time that Ticketmaster was consolidating its corporate power in the 90s, there was a parallel story of anti-corporate rock bands like Nirvana and Pearl Jam emerging from roots in local underground music scenes, playing tiny 400-person rock clubs like Tom's, and then blowing up to massive fame as part of the alternative rock boom.
What exactly is your real name? Is it Beck? Were you christened Beck? All right.
And once these artists got huge, they started questioning Ticketmaster's exploitation of their loyal fan bases.
What do you think of artists who charge anywhere between $50 to $75 for tickets?
There are people
Who charges that much money?
Oh,
Who does
yes.
Madonna
How much do
does?
we charge?
Yeah, but that's like a burlesque show.
Pearl Jam was one of the most outspoken acts of the genre, and were even called upon at one point by the White House. And just as Elvis used his time with the president to talk about the most pressing issue on his mind, kicking the Beatles out of America, Pearl Jam used their time with Clinton to raise Ticketmaster's exploitation of their fans. In 1994, they filed a complaint with the Justice Department against Ticketmaster after Ticketmaster refused to cap their service fee on Pearl Jam's upcoming tour. The complaint alleged Ticketmaster's monopoly, a legal battle ensued, and the whole incident resulted in guitarist Stone Gossard and bassist Jeff Ament testifying in front of Congress.
All the members of Pearl Jam remember what it's like to be young and not have a lot of money. Many Pearl Jam fans are teenagers who do not have the money to pay $30 or more that it's often charged for tickets today.
They were treated like a joke.
Do you think Ticketmaster's...
I was just gonna say, I was like, I'm pretty sure that the reception to them doing this was not very good.
entitled to a profit? I think our main concern is, are we entitled to use a different company other than Ticketmaster?
These old congressmen and senators, their daughters wanted to get their autographs, and it was a rude, obnoxious moment.
But it goes deeper than the usual political inaction you might expect. The American Prospect reports that Ticketmaster was leveraging its ties to key government officials to swing the case in their favor. Quote, "There is evidence Ticketmaster tapped its one-time attorney, Mickey Cantor, a close Clinton confidant, then working as U.S. trade representative, to keep tabs on the case. It's confirmed that Cantor had made calls on Ticketmaster's behalf in 1992, while he was general counsel of Clinton's presidential campaign." Pearl Jam tried to do the tour without Ticketmaster, but they were just too powerful.
Didn't work out.
The Department of Justice closed the investigation, and the band had to go back to using Ticketmaster a few years later.
Oh, man.
Lead singer Eddie Vedder later told Spin magazine, "It was really amazing to be right up close and get absolutely stomped on by a huge corporate entity." And what did the Ticketmaster CEO at the time have to say about all of this? When you bring that up, it's irrelevant to me. No one thought that ticketing was a business. I thought it was a business.
Well, and they're going to explain why it is such a lucrative business. But, you could argue and be like, well, Taylor Swifts of the world, they're the ones that get to actually do deals through their labels. They do deals with Ticketmasters, and so they get way more of the percentage, but it doesn't change the user's experience of what's happening for the fans who have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to get a ticket in the nosebleed section in the arena. But then also, not all of us are Taylor Swift. This has been something that we have just been continuously covering because of all the issues that we're going through in this video.
I'm not ashamed of that. So that's how Ticketmaster turned ticketing into a business by inventing the service fee and ushered in the era of rapidly rising concert prices. But where does Live Nation come into all of this? Just 1 year after this whole debacle, a radio mogul named Robert X. Sillerman founded a concert promotion company named SFX Entertainment. What is a concert promoter, you ask? Promoters do all of the work of arranging the logistics of the show. They book the artists, the venues, the vendors, they handle all of the payments, and they literally promote the show to the public.
From SFX, Got Milk presents Britney Spears Live.
Promoters make their money by splitting the face value price of the ticket sales, so not the service fees, with the artist at a pre-agreed rate. Sillerman did to the promotion industry what Ticketmaster did to ticketing: aggressive consolidation of the competition. After gobbling up a bunch of smaller concert promoters and creating what the New York Times called the concert world's first truly national force, he sold it to the broadcast monopoly Clear Channel for $4.4 billion and used the money to buy a controlling share of Graceland, the estate of Elvis Presley. You know, the guy whose tickets used to be $1.50.
It's good to be the king. Maybe we one-upped them, because maybe we own the king.
I think it stinks.
Oh, jeez.
Clear Channel spun it off and Live Nation was born. But ticketing and concert promotion aren't the only businesses involved in putting on a live music tour. And Live Nation started slowly making their way into other business lines.
It is also an artist management company, a venue operations company, and it runs sponsorship and advertisements for major...
Sponsors and advertisement, the venues, the managers, the ticketing company, the record label, the agents. I mean, it's at the bottom of the feeding frenzy is the actual creator of the music, who often is not represented correctly, who often has a terrible deal with one or all of these companies. But None of these companies exist without the existing talent, without the music. And so I understand the frustration. Now look, devil's advocate on the other side of this is you go, well, just because that Ticketmaster, for example, has come up with a really smart business practice and that they charge fees. People want to use the service, and fine, you pay the fees. They want to make money. They have shareholders. There's nothing wrong with capitalism and making money in America. But the problem where I get stuck is always when it's the only option. And this is where I go with like music distributors. And I go, if you have to go through a music distributor and you don't have an option, then I think that there's a higher call to action for the music distributor for doing what is right, for doing what is ethical. I digress. Let's go back.
Your concert tours across the country.
So by the early 2000s, you basically just have two companies that have dominated all of the various businesses in live music. But that wasn't enough for them. Live Nation wanted the whole industry to themselves.
Live Nation was starting its own ticket selling business to compete with Ticketmaster.
Yeah, that's right. It was a battle of titans like Batman v Superman or Godzilla x Kong. But just like in those movies, the showdown was a bit anticlimactic and turned into more of a buddy movie.
Did we just become best friends? Yep!
They abandoned those plans and in early 2009 announced that they were going to merge these two very, very large, powerful companies in the entertainment industry.
And the Obama administration basically let them get away with it.
And that's really led to a very dominant monopoly power for Live Nation ever since. They control at least 60% of the top venues in the country, 80% of the primary ticket selling market.
How does this giant company actually make money? They might own all of these various business lines, but they're not all equal.
At the core of this business model is its concert promotion business. It is a capital-intensive, hard-to-run business with ostensibly very low margins. And Live Nation will talk a lot about how they're only earning about a 1.3, 1.7% margin on their concert promotion business, which is pretty small. The way that they are able to do that is because their concert promotion business really drives the rest of the other business lines. So it drives their ticket selling operation, where Live Nation actually gets something like a 37% margin. It runs their sponsorship and advertising business line, which elicits a 67% commission.
Live Nation makes almost no money on concert promotion, and they make most of their money charging concertgoers like you massive service fees and getting sponsorship deals, both of which require very little upfront investment. They just use the concert promotion business to direct traffic into the parts that do make money.
And that's normal, right? So for those of you who, sell anything, right? I have various things that I sell. I have a music business. Of course, I am a lawyer, right? And so you can hire me, you can hire my attorneys, and there's a loss leader. A loss leader is something that you give away or that you almost completely give away, knowing that that thing will bring value and customers in for purposes of additional stuff that you might sell, right? And so the loss leaders, what they're saying is concert promotion. They go, we have to promote the concerts. We do that, but that's not really where we make our money. We make our money through the ticket sales. We make our money through the sponsors and the advertisement that is paid to us.
It's the ability to get market share, which allows you to be able to generate massive sponsorships so that Toyota or Nestle's Crunch, whatever it might be, will give you money.
Market share is the key part there. They dominated all these businesses in the industry so that nobody had any choice but to work with them and get ripped off. Artists, for example, often don't have a choice but to use Ticketmaster for ticketing and Live Nation for promotion.
Let's imagine we just played a sold-out show at a venue Live Nation owns and operates. When an artist plays these venues, they're required to use Live Nation as the promoter. We have practically no leverage in negotiating them. If they want to take 10% of the revenues and call it a facility fee, they can and have. If they want to charge $30,000 for the house nut, they can and have. And if they want to charge us $250 for a stack of 10 clean towels, they can and have.
And Live Nation's market dominance also means you don't have any choice but to pay their fees.
Ticketing fees, service fees, convenience fees, platinum fees, price master fees, per order fees.
Can I be honest? I feel like I need a music producer to remix that right there. This would be an amazing EDM remix.
Handling fees and payment processing fees, among others.
Yeah, that's definitely too many fees. It's also why the same tour is cheaper in other countries where Live Nation doesn't have dominance. And it means venue owners don't have freedom to choose either.
If you don't choose Ticketmaster, there are consequences to that. Live Nation might refuse to run shows at your venue, so you are deprived of the hot concerts that people want to go to.
That hasn't stopped some venue owners from trying, though. Tom and Gary don't work with Live Nation, but Live Nation's reach still infiltrates their choices, even when they're made with the best intentions for the fan experience.
All right, so comparison to DSPs, so digital service providers, and if you guys don't have your music on Spotify, are you doing yourself a disservice? Because someone who wants to try to find you on Spotify, they're like, I can't find you. I can't find your music. I use Spotify. Does that hurt you? Yes, you can argue that it might, but some of you are like, well, I don't make money from Spotify. I want to sell it myself through my website. And that's really smart. And some of you are doing things like these USB cards, right? So it's very similar to like cassette days. It's awesome, and I'm such a fan. But equally, if you don't play the game, if you go, yes, there's a system in place and this is how everything is, but you know what? I'm just saying no to all of it. Okay, do that strategically. Make sure you have control of your audience. Make sure your audience is on your email list. Don't just say, well, I'm just gonna stick it to the guy and not be on Spotify, because I think it's gonna backfire onto you.
Here's what happened when the Radiohead side project, The Smile, played at the Pabst Theater.
That show, they were very specific about their pricing and what they wanted their pricing to be. We followed those guidelines, but the day that our tickets were announced, they were immediately available on the Ticketmaster website because Ticketmaster controls the secondary market also.
So scalpers were able to buy up tickets at the original price and immediately resell them on Ticketmaster, where Ticketmaster takes a fee, of course, for exorbitant prices.
So the people that went out and spent $350 for the tickets that were supposed to cost $55, they take that out on the artist, or they take it out on us and blame us. But in the meantime, we're all just a part of Live Nation and Ticketmaster turning the wheel of meat so they can keep increasing those margins on service fees and on secondary tickets that feed the rest of their business, because again, they use our business as a loss leader.
Loss leader, there it is. And what about the ticket scalpers, right? So what about the people who go, they buy all the tickets before you can get to them, and then they're going to resell them at an inflated price. They're selling them now on Ticketmaster? So Ticketmaster technically is taking a bite at the apple with fees twice because of how things actually go today.
And because concerts are a loss leader fueling their other businesses, Live Nation doesn't even care if sold out shows are mostly empty because half the tickets were lost to scalpers. This whole business model is notably different from the model that independent venues follow.
We produce 800 shows a year. In order for us to survive, for our 300 plus employees to survive annually, every single show we do, we have to find ways to be able to generate revenue. It's quite the opposite with Live Nation.
To recap, Live Nation, the premier live music business, doesn't really care about the actual business of putting on live music as much as it cares about the business of scalping tickets and selling Dunkin' Donuts sponsorships. And they've taken away the freedom to choose for everyone in the industry.
Live Nation.
And that's the piece again. That's where I do get stuck on this, because a good business that comes up with a way to assess fees and make a lot of money and to monetize something that is otherwise maybe hard to monetize, okay, all right. But it's just when it becomes the only option, that's when I have a problem with it.
Is really controlling the entire ecosystem of most of the concerts that people are going to in this country. Everything from the point of sale system to the staffing at the bar to what is being sold at the bar and for how much. They're dictating what tours get to come to your venue, how tickets are sold, and at what price they're sold, and what fees are attached.
Listen to this artist put it a little more bluntly.
And then it hit me, oh my gosh, they own all the venues, it's a monopoly. So then now they just want my body in this room so they can sell food and alcohol. So then they're gonna make tons of money. And then they got me like schlepping around the United States talking about, I wanna be famous.
Okay, so now let's revisit that pyramid of live music again. 10 years after the Live Nation Ticketmaster merger, the COVID pandemic shook the foundations of this hierarchy to its core.
No matter where you were in the country, rooms like this were the first to close and the last to reopen. Large corporations were able to position themselves much better coming out of the pandemic than we were as indie establishments. We have never gotten back to where we were in 2019.
The bottom has fallen out of live music, so independent venue owners and artists at the small and mid-sized levels are struggling, while Live Nation and the upper echelon of artists that Live Nation works with continue to make massive profits. But there is hope. Regulators are finally doing something serious about this. That video we made back in 2022 was part of a larger campaign from the Breakup Ticketmaster Coalition.
In October of 2022, American Economic Liberties Project, where I work, and a bunch of allies started the Breakup Ticketmaster Coalition, which has sent over 100,000 letters to the Justice Department with narratives from artists and fans and venues and independent promoters talking about the Live Nation monopoly and encouraging the Justice Department to do something about it.
And it turns out, unlike in 1994 when it was just Pearl Jam testifying, the Department of Justice decided they couldn't ignore the mass outcry of anger at these corporations anymore, and they filed a lawsuit.
The lawsuit calls for a breakup of Live Nation and Ticketmaster at a minimum, and it talks about how all of these different business lines reinforce each other, and structurally something needs to happen here to allow competition to occur.
This lawsuit is historic, and it has broad implications, not just for live music. Today, the entire American economy resembles the Ticketmaster model.
Whether we're talking about the airline industry where 3 or 4 airlines control the entire industry, whether you're talking about grocery stores where really 2 companies control so much in all of your communities that, by the way, are now trying to merge, that's Kroger and Albertsons.
The more concentrated the economy gets, the more it stifles creative expression. The ability for artists to make art and to get it to the public, the ability for the public to be able to consume it.
Concerts have always been a third place, outside of work and home, for people to gather and share in a special experience that only exists at that time between the people in that room.
There's this beautiful creation that came out of this empty room. You can capture images of that moment, but the true sensation, that feeling you get in the room, it's like lightning in a bottle.
And when corporate greed destroys that magic, it drives all of us further apart from each other.
Well, and again, going back to just like, we're talking about something fundamentally of like music and live music that really is just so special. And that's why everything has been built around it. And it survives because of it. And so in this pyramid of live music, you always have to remember that they need you. And so I think that musicians have a tendency of underselling themselves, and artists have a tendency of underselling themselves, in that they don't remember that they are needed. Now, for you just to be like, hey, I have 0 fan following, I never post, I put out a song like 5 years ago, and now, dear venue, I think you should just book me to open for this tour that's coming through. No, that's just silly. But if we are going to be like, for us to make it make sense, we have to value what we are doing and to bring value and to be like, hey, venue, I have 500 people that I could bring to your venue. I could fill your venue. That means you get to get drink sales. That means you get to upsell while in the venue. Maybe we'll do a side deal in regards to the merchandise. But then, P.S., for me bringing my fans to your venue, this is what I'm going to require that you pay me.
There's a tremendous interest in the technology economy to be able to get you to spend as much time as possible scrolling on your screen, getting more and more angry with other people. And that's the battle that we fight in our business. Our goal is to get people away from that.
It's more important than ever, I think, to have these spaces where people actually interact on an extremely vulnerable human level.
Tom's lease is up in 2 years, and he isn't planning on renewing. It's not just Live Nation that is pushing him out of the business. It's corporations that have driven up prices in general, and giant landlords that are destroying his community.
I've been doing this work in these rooms since I was 20 years old. I'm 50 right now, 4 to 5 nights a week. I've always been very hands-on. 4 to 5 nights a week, I've been in these rooms creating that magic.
Oh, Tom. Oh, he's so sweet.
And at some point, you just have to look at it and go, you know, I've done this a long time. It's more important to me at this point to give this establishment the proper send-off that it rightfully deserves. It's more important for me to protect these entities as a whole than to try to hold on to my own brick and mortar any longer than I need to.
I feel him in that moment. You know, I've done the small dive bar shows, I've done, you know, the big shows and the festivals, and there's just thousands and thousands of people. And it's just, you know, the shows that you remember is where you connected with people, and you connected for a moment, and you shared something for a moment. And I think that's what kind of just he felt for a second, as he was just remembering, like, why has he done this for so long? What do you say, 4 to 5 nights a week? And I think if you make music, you know what that feeling is.
Meanwhile, while Tom and Gary are fighting for the future, the CEO of Live Nation, Michael Rapino, is fighting against the government's lawsuit. And he has a vested interest in keeping things status quo. In 2022, Rapino was paid a whopping $139 million. He's the perfect example of who benefits in a country filled with rampant monopolization. Listen to what he said last year when talking about artist and fan complaints about the price of tickets.
This is a great, great product that people will buy, as they're going to buy the Gucci bag. They're going to buy moments in life where they will step up and spoil themselves, the big screen TV or whatever it may be.
This is what corporate America has done to our lives. What used to be one of the most populous forms of entertainment is now a luxury good. And that's why this Department of Justice lawsuit is so important.
It's been a corporate America since the Reagan administration, since the 1980s, and people have suffered because of that. It's a point in time now where, hopefully with the current administration taking seriously antitrust in America, that this isn't just about Ticketmaster as a monopoly. It's about so much more than that.
Well, it is. And the solution, guys, for you watching right now, I really want your thoughts, right? So what is really the solution? Because we go, well, the Department of Justice has filed this lawsuit and it's asking that Ticketmaster and Live Nation be separated. They don't get to be just one giant conglomerate and they don't get to continue growing. All right, so we can be like, all right, cool, let's stop the bleeding, but the bleeding is still happening. So I'm curious, what do you guys think? What's the solution here? I mean, for me, just off the top, I go again, look, I don't have a problem with there being people and companies in the music business, in the entertainment business that have learned to make money and they make money off of other people because they've come up with good business strategies. But what I want to see are that artists are the ones that are negotiating because they actually have the power. If the artists are the ones that are not just signing away their rights to record labels and management companies and that they're staying in control, they get to make the money. And they say, hey venue, if you want me there to do this show, then here's one way that I get to monetize. And also I get to keep all of my merchandising revenue. And I also want you to help me promote because I want to build my brand. So I think in the short term, there's ways of just taking back some of the power and some of the control. And then, yeah, I think as far as just kind of breaking up the monopoly and having other players come into the space who will drive down prices because they will make options available to people without the excessive fees. Like that really is going to be the shift long term that needs to happen. Guys, you know I'm all about helping you with your music career, so if you want to check out my music business training, click that link down below, and then once you've gone through that, if you're ready and you need some help, you can reach out to me. I'll see you guys on the next one. I'm top music attorney, Miss Krystle.